welcome to the Brain Gut Metabolic Challenge, 3-day challenge. And today we actually have an expert in sugar and inflammation and how that affects the brain. And I thought that would be extremely valuable to everyone because everyone talks about sugar and, oh, it's good, oh, it's bad, but we really don't know specifically the mechanics of that and how that affects really absorption, nutrition, and diet. And Florence here is an expert. She's a sugar busting expert, and she's going to share really in this short time a few tips that could support everyone in the group. And if they could just even make 1 or 2 changes. But let's just start, Florence, with why sugar isn't optimal.
Right. So modern sugar, the refined, highly processed sugars are very, very concentrated. And it really is it no longer deserves the word sugar. It really is more like a drug. It's a chemical, like white refined sugar is now a chemical. It goes through the exact same refinement process that heroin does. And most people know that heroin comes from morphine, and morphine comes from opium. And opium comes from the poppy plant. So what starts as a little seed, an innocent little plant growing out in a field, becomes horrifically addictive drug. Sugar goes through the same process, exact same. Comes from nature, sugarcane, beets, whatever, fine and healthy whole form. Before you're metabolically damaged, it's fine to have some of it in healthy whole form. But once we've tinkered with it and brought it into the laboratory and turned it into a chemical, it has been wrath. That's the word that's coming to mind. It has really deeply damaged human health. So because it's so processed and concentrated, it no longer comes complete. Sugar usually shows up in fruits and vegetables, including grains. Grains are 12 to 15 molecules of glucose strung together. You grind them, you turn them into powders, and you've got pure sugar. In their whole form, they come with all kinds of phytonutrients, vitamins and minerals and fiber, and it's perfectly fine. Whole healthy foods are fine. Once we tinker with them, we reprocess them, they become highly problematic. The more processed, the more refined, the more problematic.
Well, you know
So,
what's interesting? I just want to talk just a little bit about that because I don't think people know what processed is anymore.
right. So here's my definition. I highly recommend that if you're on a health journey of any kind, if you have a weight loss, autoimmune conditions, disease diagnosis, fatigue, mental health issues, any of them. If your health is not optimal, I'm going to quote Dr. Mark Hyman, who says in his book, The Blood Sugar Solution, no, you ain't got no business eating sugar, flour, processed carbohydrates, or processed foods of any kind until you've resolved your health issues. No business. Zero. So if you're on a healing path, take this very seriously. Now you might think, oh, come on, it's too extreme. Well, it just depends whether or not you're taking your desire to reverse your metabolic syndrome symptoms seriously. Because if you want to do that seriously, then take this advice very seriously. So what is a processed food? Easier to define it, but what is a whole food? Nothing's been added and nothing's been taken away. It is a single ingredient. It is a black bean. It is chicken. It is asparagus. It is cucumber. It's one ingredient, no label. Now you might think, oh, come on, who could possibly eat that way? It's so easy. It is so much easier to eat whole foods, assuming you're willing to get in the kitchen and make your own meals. And if you're not, there's still some places you can go to have them make it for you the way you want it. But basically, your meals become, and I don't know what kind of nutritional advice you give people, but I do the 3 meals, no snacks, whole foods only. Pick a protein, pick a complex carb, pick some fresh vegetables, pick some cooked vegetables and a fat. And if you can't do vegetables, I understand your gut and your microbiome might be so disrupted that isn't an option. I get it. Start small, work with Simone for the details on that. But generally speaking, your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner look identical. And if they're so simple, if you need recipes, you're doing it wrong. When we're healing our bodies, they're so simple. Breakfast, let's say, what could be my protein? All right, I'll have tofu. I will have 2 eggs, whatever. And then what will I have for my vegetables? I might actually do a green juice, or I might do a green salad, or I might have sauteed spinach, or whatever. It doesn't matter, whatever vegetables float your boat. A complex carb could be a fruit, It could be beans, or it could be probably those are the two in the early days. I highly recommend no grains. So I'm kind of hardcore in my boot camps when I move people through phase one, like I do a full-on functional medical detox. So no sugar, no flour, no sweeteners, no alcohol. Those never belong in the human body. Those are toxic. I understand that sometimes people will make exceptions with glasses of wine. Your body, your life, no one's, I'm making recommendations. You take them or leave them. But depending on how sick you are and how motivated you are to get things sorted out, those are the four that are really a no-go for life. Then you want to look at grains. I'd let those go for at least 30 days. Dairy, I would let that go for 30 days. Nuts and seeds, for some people, if they have a tendency to get inflamed on them or to binge on them or to have cravings, like I've personally binged on peanut butter. I haven't binged, but I've overdone almond butter. Like I can tell something when something's like, whoa, time out. There's no off button here. This is like, oh, give me more feeling. And as soon as that feeling comes up in my system, I say to that food, or to the part of me that's getting all jacked up on that food, all right, I see what's going on here, and I want peace with food. I don't want to behave this way with food. I've done too many decades of that. I've no longer got the patience for this kind of relationship with food. So I'm going to go put peanut butter on the red list for about 30 days or a week or whatever, 3 days, whatever it is, to give the message that we don't behave that way. That there's some part of me that goes into this overdrive, I can't get enough feeling. And I know that that's a tricky food. It's a slippery food, and nuts and seeds for many people are tricky and slippery. So I recommend in the early days too that you might want to lay low on that. So
So that goes into a complex things too, because a lot of nuts and seeds could also have mold on them.